I'm very happy to be here in this excitingly different meeting. Particularly in the plenary, we see that this meeting is bringing together different worlds with maybe completely different ideas of how they would like to see food systems change. But hopefully it's precisely this opportunity to reflect on completely different perspectives that can take us to a place where we can arrive at a vision that works for everyone, not a vision that has us as bloated, vacuous beings in red bodysuits, but neither the continued extreme inequality that we see in the world and also the misuse of natural resources. So, oh, sorry. Okay, so improving food safety is the major, in developing countries, is the major part of what I've been doing for the last 18 years. So I could talk about it for hours. But since I have 10 minutes, I've chosen 4 things that I want to say to you. And the first of those, hope I touched the right button. Yeah. The first of those is just to affirm, yes, we can. Through technical assistance to developing countries, we can improve food safety, although very often we don't. Where we do, we see the successes most clearly in those subsectors where countries have been assisted to meet international standards for exports, industry working with supply chain, with suppliers to secure their supply chain. These are the easiest and most frequently most successful. Narrow interventions, very focused, but meeting important results. Whether we like to admit it or not, there are too many projects that don't meet their stated, achieve their stated impacts. Yes, there are some useful results, but that results chain that's supposed to deliver some impact often doesn't work. Now, so how do we use this information going forward? Certainly, I am not saying that we remain focused only on narrow value chain interventions. They are important, they are good, but they are not enough. The spillover into mainstream food safety typically doesn't happen. Okay, we end up with 2-tiered systems where exports are safe, but the domestic population is inadequately protected. But we can learn lessons from what has worked well to implement more rigor in other programs, clearer monitorable goals based on better indicators of food safety system performance, greater attention to the incentives to both the donors and the recipients of the projects. What's in it for me? Why do I work hard for a result? But also accountability. Accountability is frequently missing in technical assistance programs. So we take that lesson and we have to do better. We have no choice but to improve. The second thing I wanted to say to you is that achieving food safety is not an easy thing. Several things have to happen concurrently for food to be produced reliably, safely. And we've heard yesterday in many talks all about the challenges around food systems, the food chain, the weak infrastructure in many developing countries, poor access to services, poor water, poor electricity. From the point of view of regulatory oversight, there are general governance problems in many developing countries. More specifically, there are also technical, financial, and human resource constraints and weak institutions. So there's plenty to be done. We need plenty people involved. But that plenty has to be coordinated. There has to be working to a common long-term vision. And the reality is that most of the players engaged are engaged with a short to medium-term perspective, and the coordination is far below what it needs to be. There are mechanisms at international level and at national level involving governments and donors that are supposed to be improving coordination and coherence. We need, going forward, we need to put a lot more importance on these mechanisms. It may require some philosophical and bureaucratic changes in the way aid functions, but it is absolutely worth it to arrive at better coherence in food safety capacity development. Yesterday, there was quite a few comments about the moral reprehensibility of food waste. Well, I maintain that it is morally reprehensible that we waste development resources through inadequate coordination and coherence. The third thing that I wanted to say to you relates to technology adaptation and innovation. You know, there are many industry sectors in many developed countries that have flourished largely because they did have behind them public research, public universities, working with them, finding better processes, developing equipment, solving whatever problems came up along the way. In developing countries, this generally doesn't happen. And moving forward, it would be good to see a little bit more of this. More efficient and more profitable value chains means even the ability for better enforcement of food safety measures. There are increasing numbers of universities that are involved in development. So I hope that we can see a little bit more of this type of assistance. But there's innovation in many other sectors that is relevant to food safety, improving food safety in developing countries. Right now, there's a lot of work that's going on in many countries on adapting biocontrol as part of an integrated solution for controlling mycotoxin that has proven to be an intractable problem across the decades. Clean water. It's a problem, and it will be a bigger problem. There are new technologies that can help us with water cleanup. Let's try to focus on adapting those to developing country contexts. I'd just like to flag, there are no silver bullets. Somebody said that this morning. There are no silver bullets. But innovation can broaden the toolbox, so developing countries can find that combination of measures that works for them. The last point I would like to make, I was at a meeting a couple months ago, and someone actually challenged me to say, wouldn't you be more effective if instead of focusing on the food control system, you focused on the consumer? The logic behind this provocation was that the informal sector works well at delivering food cheaply to poor households, and quite frequently, it is the only business opportunity for poor people. So the logic behind the provocation was, if we work on raising food safety standards within the country, are you not penalizing poor people twice? And they gave examples of hazards in informal milk chains that do not become a risk through improved consumer behavior, primarily boiling the milk before you drink it. And without a doubt, I do believe that empowering the consumer is an important part of improving food safety in developing countries. And perhaps we even need to put more focus on it. But this absolutely cannot be seen as in some way in contradiction to improving food control systems. It is an informed and empowered consumer as part of a system. And very definitely, what we do need to see more of is support to developing countries to be deploying the best knowledge, the best information, the best tools to inform risk management decisions that at the same time steadily improve food safety and food safety practices, and at the same time enable inclusive economic development, not excluding small producers. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening, and that, of course, is the food safety website, if you'd like to know more about what FAO does in terms of improving food safety.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.